Hello and welcome. My name is Alan, and today we will be doing more of the ideas and opinions of Albert Einstein. We'll be starting a new section, part 3, on the Jewish people. So today we're going to read 3 pieces. First part is named A Letter to President Dr. Hellpach, Minister of State. The blurb reads, written response to an article by Professor Hellpach, which appeared in the Voische Zeitung in 1929, published in Mein Weltbild, Amsterdam, Querido Verlag, 1934. Dear Mr. Hellpach, I have read your article in Zionism and the Zurich's Congress and feel, as a strong devotee of the Zionist idea, that I must answer you, even if only shortly. The Jews are a community bound together by ties of blood and tradition, and not of religion only. The attitude of the rest of the world toward them is sufficient proof of this. When I came to Germany 15 years ago, I discovered for the first time that I was a Jew, and I owe this discovery more to Gentiles than Jews. The tragedy of the Jews is that they are people of a definite historical type, who lack the support of a community to keep them together. The result is a want of solid foundation in the individual, which amounts to its extremer forms to moral instability. I realized that salvation was only possible for the race if every Jew in the world should become attached to a living society to which he as an individual might rejoice to belong, and which might enable him to bear the hatred and the humiliations that he has to put up with from the rest of the world. I I saw worthy Jews basely caricatured, and the sight made my heart bleed. I saw how schools, comic papers, and innumerable other forces of the Gentile majority undermined the confidence even of the best of my fellow Jews, and felt that this could not be allowed to continue. Then I realized that only a common enterprise dear to my heart of Jews all over the world could restore this people to health. It is a great achievement of Herzl's to have realized and proclaimed at the top of his voice that the traditional attitude of the Jews being what it was, the establishment of a national home, or more accurately, a center in Palestine, was a suitable object on which to concentrate our efforts. All this you call nationalism, and there is something in the accusation, but a communal purpose without which we can neither live nor die in this hostile world can always be called by that ugly name. In any case, it is nationalism whose aim is not power but dignity and health. If we did not have to live among intolerant, narrow-minded, and violent people, I should be the first to throw over all nationalism in favor of universal community. The objection that we Jews cannot be proper citizens of the German state, for example, if we want to be a nation, is based on a misunderstanding of a nature of the state which springs from the intolerance of national majorities. Against that intolerance, we shall never be safe, whether we call ourselves a people or nation or not. I have put all this with brutal frankness for the sake of brevity, but I know from your writings that you are a man who stands to the sense, not the form. So yeah, this was response to the 1929 article of Professor Hellpach, which 29 were still before Hitler has assumed power, I believe. He's not yet taken over, but there's already a growing contempt among the Jewish people in Europe, especially in Germany. So, yeah. And Einstein's trying to say, look, it is nationalism that we want a home for our Jewish people, but it isn't out of hate or anything. Which I agree that was fine back in the day, but unfortunately it's become something totally horrible. But anyway, let's go on to the next piece. It's called Letter to an Arab and was published in Mein Weltbild, Amsterdam, Querido Verlag, 1934. March the 15th, 1930. Sir, your letter has given me great pleasure. It shows me that there is goodwill available on your side, too, for solving the present difficulties in a manner worthy of both our nations. I believe that these difficulties are more psychological than real, and that they can be got over if both sides bring honesty and goodwill to the task. What makes the present position so bad is the fact that Jews and Arabs confront each other as opponents before the mandatory power. This state of affairs is unworthy of both nations and can only be altered by our finding uh, a via media on which both sides agree. I will now tell you how I think that the present difficulties might be remedied. At the same time, I must add that this is my only my personal opinion, which I have discussed with nobody. I am writing this letter in German because I am not capable of writing it in English myself, and because I want to bear the entire responsibility for it myself. You will, I am sure, be able to get some Jewish friend of conciliation to translate it. A privy council is to be formed, to which the Jews and Arabs shall each send 4 representatives, who must be independent of all political parties, each group to be composed as follows: a doctor elected by the medical association, a lawyer elected by the lawyers, a working men's representative elected by trade unions, an ecclesiastic elected by the ecclesiastics. These 8 people are to meet once a week. They undertake not to espouse the sectional interests of their profession or nation, but conscientiously and to the best of their power to aim at the welfare of the whole population of the country. Their deliberations shall be secret, and they are strictly forbidden to give any information about them, even in private. When a decision has been reached on any subject in which not less than 3 members on each side concur, it may be published, but only in the name of the whole council. If a member dissents, he may retire from the council, but he is not thereby released from the obligation to secrecy. If one of the elective bodies above specified is dissatisfied with the resolution of the council, it may replace its representative by another. Even if this Privy Council has no definite powers, it may nevertheless bring about the gradual composition of differences and secure a united representation of the common interests of the country before the mandatory power, clear of the dust of ephemeral politics. So yeah, I believe it said 1930. I think the rebirth of the Jewish nation was around this time. So he may have been talking to someone from Palestine. Let me look that up to verify. Bear with me one moment. Uh, Israel rebirth. 48. Okay, so it had not yet been formed, but I think there was already talks about it at this point. So yeah, um, because he seemed to want to talk about trying to have a peaceful resolution. So with someone of Arab descent, he doesn't say who, just letter to an Arab. But the last piece I'm going to read is called The Jewish Community. Blurb reads, a speech delivered at the Savoy Hotel, London, October the 29th, 1930. Published in Mein Weltbild, Amsterdam, Corrido Verlag, 1934. Ladies and gentlemen, it is no easy matter for me to overcome my natural inclination to a life of quiet contemplation, but I could not remain deaf to the appeal of the ORT and OZE societies. For in responding to it, I am responding, as it were, to an appeal of our sorely oppressed Jewish nation. The position of our scattered Jewish community is a moral barometer for the political world. For that, for what sure index of political morality and respect for justice can there be than the attitude of the nations toward a defenseless minority, whose peculiarity lies in their preservation of an ancient cultural tradition? This barometer is low at the present moment, as we are painfully aware from the way we are treated. But it is this very lowness that confirms me in the conviction that it is our best duty to preserve and consolidate our community. Embedded in the tradition of the Jewish people, there is a love of justice and reason which must continue to work for the good of all nations, now and in the future. In modern times, this tradition has produced Spinoza and Karl Marx. Those who would preserve the spirit must also look after the body to which it is attached. The OZE Society literally looks after the bodies of our people. In Eastern Europe, it is working day and night to help our people there, on whom the economic depression has fallen particularly heavy, to keep body and soul together, while the ORT Society is trying to get rid of a severe social and economic handicap under which the Jews have labored since the Middle Ages. Because we were then excluded from all directly productive occupations, we were forced into the purely commercial ones. The only way of really helping the Jew in Eastern countries is to give him access to new fields of activity for which he is struggling all over the world. This is the grave problem which the ORT Society is successfully tackling. It is to you English fellow Jews that we now appeal to help us in the great enterprise which splendid men have set on foot. The last few years, nay, the last few days, have brought us a disappointment which must have touched you particularly. Do not gird at, at fate, but rather look on these events as a reason for remaining true to the cause of the Jewish Commonwealth. I am convinced that in doing so, we shall indirectly be promoting those general human ends, which we must always recognize as the highest. Remember that difficulties and obstacles are as they are a valuable source of health and strength to any society. We should not have survived for thousands of years as a community if our bed had been of roses. Of that I am quite sure. But we have a still fair consolation. Our friends are not exactly numerous, but among them are men of noble spirit, endowed with a strong sense of justice, who have devoted their lives to uplifting human society and liberating the individual from degrading oppression. To you all, I say that the existence and destiny of our people depends less on external factors than on ourselves. It is our duty to remain faithful to the moral traditions which have enabled us to survive for thousands of years, despite the heavy storms that have broken over our heads. In the service of life, sacrifice becomes grace. So, yeah, Einstein speaking, he likes that these organizations are trying to help. And the ORT and OZE societies are Jewish charitable associations. But Einstein is glad they are trying to help to make things better. He says there is a lot of difficulty, a lot of hate pointed towards the Jewish society simply because they're an easy target to blame. And he also points out, look, a lot of the criticisms that Jews are all in the money positions is only because they were forced into the commercial sectors. So yeah, he says, give them other trades to learn. But yeah, that's all I'm going to read for now. As always, educate thyself. Think, read, study, learn. Someone tries to tell you something you have trouble believing, ask them to cite their sources. I'm sorry this is a late video, but again, I've not had the motivation to do anything. I'll see you all in the next video. Until then, later.